Hello, welcome along. I'm going to be talking here about the GoDaddy system and the M365 tenants that they provide with their normal domain registration. When you go and you can add an email and you get an M365 tenant and all looks good until you get to the point where you want to start doing other things with the tenant and using it as a true M365 tenant without all of the limitations and things that happen. There's a lot you can do if you were to convert that to a real tenant. Now, a lot of people would look at it and say, hey, we're going to set up a brand new M365 tenant. We're going to migrate everything through it. We'll migrate our Exchange and OneDrive. We'll migrate any teams we've had in the GoDaddy side. And of course, any SharePoint sites if you've got that configured and set up as well. And we'll migrate everything across to the new tenant. We'll put Microsoft licensing on it and everybody will be happy. Now, that is true. It is a good option to take those systems and put them across to a new tenant. Why not? Brand new tenant, all good. But what I'm telling you here is that can be a little bit disruptive for users if you've got everybody set up. In fact, we recently had a client, just a small number of users, maybe 50 users in there, but it was going to be a big effort because they would have to touch every single machine and reconfigure it to point to the new addresses, especially when they move the domain over from one tenant to another. And they really didn't want that disruption. And they're saying, well, what is the better option? Can we use the GoDaddy tenant as with all the features of an M365 tenant that they would be expecting? The answer to that is yes, you can. And I'm going to show you on this video how we take that GoDaddy tenant and move it into a licensing model that's supported by Microsoft directly. We defederate it, so we take away the GoDaddy password controls, and then we open up obviously all of the access that we have to the normal M365 admin centers and for Teams and SharePoint, OneDrive and the like. And even if you want to start doing anything with like Power Apps, Power BI, that all becomes open as well, and we can start using all of those. It's not quite as hard as you would think to go through. Obviously, we need to defederate. We need to take away the GoDaddy admin access from the tenant. We need to do a lot of things around the different DNS records and the like. But then we also would need to then take away the licensing from the GoDaddy side, cancel that subscription, but leave the domain in place because the domain is most likely registered with GoDaddy. That's not a problem. That can stay there. We're just going to basically detach the M365 tenant that you have and like I say, relicense it with Microsoft and defederate it accordingly. So let's get stuck in and let's have a look at what we currently have set up for a tenant in GoDaddy, and let's see what we're moving, really, first of all. So if I just drop this one away, you'll see this is our GoDaddy screen with our email. You can see I've got one email on this particular tenant, which is just Bob at Migration River. And if I hit the manage here, you can see this is the normal GoDaddy admin screen. You can change its password, aliases, forwarding. I mean, it works. I mean, it's a basic system, but it does work as in terms of an admin console. And if we go up here, back to here, I'm logged into the M365 cloud as the user, and I look down here, see Bob Jones, Migration River. There he is there, and you can see I've got some items here, obviously the email, and that all works. I mean, it receives email fine, sends email fine, or as you would think, I'm going to show you a couple of things that don't actually work correctly, but let's go back here. And of course, if I go to admin, it doesn't give the admin console that you'd expect. It drops in, as you can see, to the productivity.godaddy.com and lets me do everything through here instead. We want to open up that whole admin portal inside 365 so we can do that a little bit more effectively. Now, whilst there's a couple of things that maybe don't work correctly, this is a fairly new setup for this Migration River on what I call a GoDaddy tenant. But if you look at the DNS entries here, you can see what's actually happened is it's put in, it was retained the secureserver.net as the outbound SPF record, which isn't totally correct. It has got the correct MX record. It's not running through that Proofpoint service, which often GoDaddy does. So that one is correct. But really, obviously, this needs some work. And I did notice it doesn't have any DKIM records. It does have a DMARC, strangely enough. And how we check all that out in terms of mail delivery into this tenant. If we go on to the cloudgizer.com website, you'll notice if I go down a bit here, there is an article here for the scanner tool, which we'll put the domain in this item. Here we are. So, yep, migrationriver.com, and see what it comes back with. So you can see, yes, it's got DMARC. It has SPF, even though the SPF is wrong. It is there, and there's no DKIM configured at all. BIMI, don't worry about BIMI. That's that brand indicator. There's a whole other video talking about BIMI. But this here is a concern that you'd need to fix, even if you're retaining GoDaddy for the tenant. You'd want to fix those, but we'll come back to those. And if you look at the DKIM, when you actually logged in as this guy, he is an admin in his own tenant, or so you would think. And I can go into security.microsoft.com/DKIM v2, and you can see that there are no DKIM. So I could set up DKIM if I wanted to inside the GoDaddy tenant, and you can see there's our default name, which we're going to use later as well. So you can set it up and you can get all of that deliverability correct, but of course we're going to do the move across and make it do the tenant conversion with the defederation, and then we'll go back and fix all these things a little later on. I think the main thing here is that we don't want any real disruption to the users. We want them to carry on, and this is a good option because the logins will need to change. They'll need a password change, and the token provider and the OAuth does change as well. But essentially, the setups that they have on their phones actually point to the same tenant. So the object GUID of the actual account itself doesn't change, which means if you set up things like the Teams app or the Outlook app, all it's going to need is a replacement password to reconnect back into the same tenant without having to do a force or uninstall and put it back and then change the object GUIDs likewise. So this is a good option, like I say, for the a less disruptive way of getting your tenant into a true M365 state. So anyway, that's enough talking about that. Let's jump in and say, well, what do we actually need to do? So the first thing we're going to do is we need to get into the back end of the tenant into Azure, and that's why I say this guy is really important. Let me just come there. We need to know what that is. So you might want to be making a note of this item right here. So as we're logged in, as you can see with Bob at Migration River, he is an admin, and you can see from this side, if I jump back into the GoDaddy screen, you can see account information, and it should show you on here, yes, he's got an email essentials, that's cool, and he does have admin privileges. You can see a little yes in here. So one of the users is going to have admin privileges. That's the one we want to be logging into to use. And if I jump back into here, because what you're going to go to is just start up a new one. And you want to go to portal.azure.com. And that will actually get you into the back end of Azure without asking for the GoDaddy links, if you like, into any page they have. It does let you into the actual azure.com of your tenant. And you can see here, if I look at this address, you can see I am logged in as our admin account, and it's also got that netorg there as well. So what we're doing here, we're going to go into Entra ID, and we're going to have a look at users here. And you'll see we have Bob, obviously, but we've got this guy as well. Now, this is obviously me when I set it up. This is the account that we're going to be working with. Now, this is the onmicrosoft.com admin address. This is very important, this guy right here, because what we're going to do is set up we'll put a password on this one, and then we're going to log in as that and do all of the admin work with this, because once we do the defederation, so we effectively change the fact that when you log in as an M365 account, the migrationriver.com currently spools over and says, no, your accounts are handled by GoDaddy. I'm going to give you the GoDaddy login screen, and all the password and MFA and all those controls are handled by GoDaddy. We want to defederate, which means the federation link between them for the identity will be broken, and we'll have it processed by Azure itself instead. And obviously that's a very important step. So that's our first step we're going to do, and then we'll go through and add some licensing for Microsoft and really convert the tenant from there. Now, I should mention as well that the users are going to have a small outage. So when we do the defederation and point it to Azure for the password controls, I've seen it in half an hour. I've seen it in 3 to 4 hours. It can take a while for it to process through. If you try it immediately, it's going to say, hey, there's no login servers available for this account. Don't stress, don't panic, just chill. Everything will be fine. Just let it bake in. Just wait. Don't start resetting passwords randomly, getting stressed, and oh my gosh, it's all broken. What's going on? don't worry, it'll come right. Just let it bake in, let it sit, go have a cup of tea, come back, and you'll be perfectly fine. So, first one here, I'll go into this account, and I need to go and reset the password, which is this one here, which I will set. So that's done. Obviously, it's come up with the temporary password which it needs. So now I'm going to have a brand new profile. So I can now go into, let's have a look at portal.office.com, which is our normal M365 item here. And I'm going to paste in that address, which, as you can see, is that admin account with the netorg ft on Microsoft.com. Hit next, and you can see it's not binding across to GoDaddy because this obviously is not a federated domain. It's the migration river is. So I put our password in here, and that will ask me to change it, I would expect, pretty much immediately. There we go. Like so. We'll hit sign in. And yep, that's fine. No thank you there. And we're now into the admin portal as our user. As you can see, there's our admin user into the back end of the tenant. Now, we haven't done anything destructive to the tenant yet, but you can see, guess what's happening? The SSO for GoDaddy is asking me to sign in with an admin here. So we're not really getting much further. Even though we are an admin here and an admin on the tenant, it's still managing to bind itself back through GoDaddy. So therefore, we can't do much with the admin. What we're looking to do here is open this up so it just goes straight into the admin portal. Now, if I try and log in here with that address, with the admin at the onmicrosoft.com, it's going to say it doesn't exist because GoDaddy is not the federated partner for that on Microsoft.com. So I hope I'm not confusing things here, but essentially you're a little bit limited on what can happen. But you can, however, go in here. Let's see, got that. And you go into the, portal.azure.com, and you'll find you can log in into the back end for Azure, and you can get to everything that you need to from here, especially the Entra ID, which is our key one that we're looking for. Now, if it doesn't show up on here, it'll show up in the more services, or you can just type in Entra and you'll find it here. And there's your access with your main system. So all good there. So basically what we've done here, we've really just managed to log in as this admin account and obviously show that's working. So let's go ahead now and actually do that defederation, and let's take that away from GoDaddy. So we're going to do that with PowerShell, and we are using the graph connection into the M365 backend through PowerShell. So if you don't have PowerShell 7 installed, then go ahead and do that. Get that on there, and you need to run a session of PowerShell with the administrative privileges. So do the run as admin on that, and you'll get down. I always go to the scripts directory, just where I like to store temporary files and things, but that's where we are. So the first command we're going to do, we need to connect with Graph into the back end. Now, if you don't have Graph installed, and it's the first time you've done it, you're going to be doing install module, and it's just going to be Microsoft.graph like so. That will, if I do that now, you'll see it will actually try and install, possibly even go for a different updated version, and we say yes to. I just want to give you that so you can see what's happening here. As you can see, it's already installed on this machine, so we're good. It's got a slightly older version, but I'm not too worried about that. If I wanted to, I could do the force here, like it says, and force that version in. Not a bad option to do. And get that in there. But the important thing is you must have the Microsoft Graph modules loaded in your PowerShell window to start these commands off. So I'll just come back once that has completed. You can see, yeah, it's doing all its new downloads and getting it in. So it's a good one to know. Install module, Microsoft.graph -force will just get that in for you. It is quite large, so it will take a few minutes to do. But once it's, in fact, just proves I talk too much because it's going to be finished in a second. Look at that. Excellent. Now it does need to be imported as well, so you do need to do the import module Microsoft.graph. If you've done it once already on a PowerShell session, it's going to be there, but like I say, for the people that haven't had Graph installed, this is what you're going to need to be doing. So I'm going to put in here import module, and it's Microsoft.graph. There we go. And that just imports all the commandlets into your session, so you can then start running some commands with that. So our next command we put in here is the connection into the M365 backend with Graph, and you can see I'm going to put it in the description for the video so you can see that and just grab it as you need to, but it is just a connection. When you run that, it will then prompt you with a browser window to log in to authenticate against the tenant. So if I drag this up here, you can see that's what it's asking me to do here. So I'm going to log in with that admin account again, just hit next on that, and then obviously our password, like so. And when we sign in, it's going to ask us for the permission. So we can say, is this particular session allowed to do these things? And we'll say yes, and we'll consent on behalf of the organization so that that Graph connection can do that. We'll say accept there, and it should just drop us back to, yeah, there we go, authentication complete. Now what it should be doing now is it makes the connection inside PowerShell, and you can see now we can run those commands against the M365 system. So command-wise, if we run here, we say get mg domain, that will list all of the domains that it will have and show us the details. Now what we're looking for here is, you can see we've got our netorg, which is our underlying core domain, which is a managed domain. The managed means it's managed by Microsoft, and the federated means it is passing that authentication to a federation partner, which of course is GoDaddy. So what we're going to be doing here, we're going to be changing this one from Migration River into a managed account instead of federated. That way all the identities are then processed by Microsoft and not by GoDaddy. That is our first key step to do. Now, remembering, this is the point where it's going to start doing some, I wouldn't say destructive things, but it's definitely going to be changing things on the tenant, and it's obviously quite difficult to go back once you've done this. So this is, I'm going to call it the point of no return for what we're doing, but it definitely is a necessary step. So at this point, we would have informed all of our users and said, hey, you know what, it's Friday night, go out, go party, do something, do not use your system because it's not going to work for a bit, and we're going to send you all your new passwords, and we are going to basically transfer the system over. So otherwise you're going to get phone calls saying, I can't log in, what do I do? That's okay. That's quite normal. So we're going to go ahead and defederate this particular domain and make it managed by Microsoft. Now the command we use for that is also, I put it in the description too, which is this one. I've just started typing that, but you can see update mg domain with the domain ID mg river, and we're going to say we want authentication type as managed, like so. And that, as you can see, happens very, very quickly. Now if I just go up and look at those again, I can see now it's changed to a managed domain. So really that is now processing in the background, and it is taking away all of that token authority from GoDaddy. It is now going to be managed by Azure, which is exactly what we want. Now while it's taking effect, I want to jump back in. We did have a session open, as you can see, with Bob Jones in Migration River, authenticated with GoDaddy, and we've got, you know, the different admin section he had, the mails coming up, and this here. I'm going to close these two, and I'm going to sign out of that account now. And then I'm going to show you what happens when you try and sign in again. So let's do that. Let's go to portal.office.com. And we'll go in, yep, Bob at Migration River. Let's click on him and see where it takes us. And you can see it's not pointing to GoDaddy anymore. And choose a way to sign in, empty. Now, if a user gets that, they're going to freak out. Like, I can't log into my account. What do I do? Chicken Little, the sky's falling down. Just wait, just chill. It's okay. It's going to be a few hours before that comes right. But now these users have technically lost access to the system, and of course if I go in here and start looking around, this token will stay alive for a bit inside here for Bob, and you can see I can look at things. However, that will drop off, so I'm just going to log out of here anyway. No need to stay in there. Sign out, and obviously out of here as well. We'll leave these other ones open, but what I'm waiting for here is a way for Bob to log in. You can see he doesn't have it right now. It's, as I say, not a big problem. We will be back to that one shortly. But in the meantime, what I would need to do is, this is the console we have for logging in as admin, this one is not affected. This session is perfectly live. If I refresh that, you can see, there we go, all users, all good here. I do need to go into Bob's account here, and we can have a look. We can actually do these items. Actually, no, we can't. Let me just go into him there, and we'll go to reset password here, and I'll put in a temporary password for Bob. Reset password there, and you can see, yeah, let's grab that one for us. So we'll copy that one out. That's a temporary one for Bob that he'll need to be able to log in for the first time into the what we call a true M365 tenant, and obviously he's going to change his password and set up his MFA and do what he needs to do there. But that is an important step. You will need to do that for all of the users. They do need a password reset, because you've got to remember that the Azure backend that's now going to process the password has never had a password set for Bob in that backend. So obviously it needs one, and it will then provide those services to Bob. Now, what would have already started to happen is, because we don't have that federation going on now, remember when I was trying to log in to the admin center, I was getting bounced back into that productivity item. And even when I was logged in as this NetOrg account, the NetOrg FT account, the admin, it was still bouncing back there. We couldn't see the admin console. What should be happening now is, if I were to go into a new window here and go to admin.microsoft.com, in fact, that'll do, one of those, you can see now it's actually taken us to the true admin center. So now you can start to see that things are coming good with this tenant, and we can look at all of the items. So I've got all the normal M365 access that I need. And if I look at active users, you can even see Bob's there. I can quite easily go in and change password. I can do licenses. This is a much better console to do things. It gives you a lot more flexibility. I mean, this is the true M365 tenant for that. And then you get access to all the things like the Entra ID, you've got the Exchange, you've even got Purview and security up there as well. So this is where you need to be to run the admin on these accounts. Set the password here, no problem. And we'll just wait until we can log in as Bob correctly for the user experience. But there are some things we can do in the meantime to get this tenant up to a good standard. So the first thing we're going to look at is licensing. Now remember that we had GoDaddy licensing, and you can see here Exchange Online Essentials. Now that's going to stay for a bit. In fact, if you had a license expiry of a couple of months, that will stay and it will be able to be used. But remember that we do need to convert that to a true Microsoft license, not the GoDaddy equivalent, to really open up all those extra features. So that's really one of our main steps here. Is we're not going to use GoDaddy licensing. We're going to use Microsoft licensing to do that. So we're going to need to go in and set up a new billing profile and add the licenses in. I'm going to put a trial on this one, just so I can show you actually converting that license over. Now remember that if the licenses did drop off and users start to lose access to all their stuff, not a problem. You've got 30 days. That GUID will stay live in the back end, and you just apply a license to it and everything comes back. If you've got more than 30 days, you've got a problem. But I mean, come on guys, 30 days, that's way long. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to look at from a billing perspective. Let's have a look at licenses, and we should see there's Exchange Online Essentials. And if I go into that one there and have a look at the subscription, even you can see it's assigned to Bob. And subscription, you can see what is going on here. And yes, active, you can see it renews 2026, but here the billing profile says GoDaddy, and it's a reseller channel. So what we'll be doing here is adding some licenses in. Now we're going to be doing that before we remove the GoDaddy solution provider from here. Key thing here, I just want to get these Microsoft licenses in place, so then I can start transferring the users over to use them instead. So if I do the purchase here, I'm just going to do the business basic month to month for this particular demo, and you can see you can get 25 of those for free, actually on a free trial for a month, and then if you want to, you can extend the free trial for another month. So you could get 2 months worth of free licenses for whatever you choose, and then of course they get paid for and carried on afterwards. So I'm going to choose here that I want 5, and I'm going to say start free trial. Now it's going to ask me for credit card details and other things, so I'm going to pause the recording while I do all of that, but it'll come back and we will have the business basic licenses available to us in the system. Okay, so that's processed that order. You can see it says now we're all set. Great. So now we can look at the the users that we're going to be assigning those accounts to. So if we look at admin home, excuse me, we can now look at, if I go to show all, let's look at billing and look at licenses, then look at that, we have 25 business basic available as that trial. Now remember, I put in 5 because I wanted to purchase. As I did the free trial, it's automatically given me 25. So anyway, that's all good. Let's go and have a look at our users now, and let's go to Bob, and we can actually just go in here and manage product licenses. We will be taking away this guy and giving him this one instead. Save changes, there we go. So you can see here that he now has the business basic license, so he doesn't have the GoDaddy one anymore. Therefore we can now go and remove GoDaddy from the partner relationship, and we can even go into GoDaddy and remove the renewal of that product as well off of the GoDaddy system. So then we are detached from that quite nicely. So how to remove GoDaddy as a partner? We go down to settings here and we go down to partner relationships. Go in there and you can see currently you have one here, which is the GoDaddy. So to get rid of it, we just here remove the roles and say remove roles here. Yes, please. And that is now gone. We do have these other ones here. And that really is just a reference to say they were a reseller. Role authorization is none and none assigned. Now, by having these with none, this will drop off over time. It will stay for a little bit, but you can see what it's saying is that they don't have any authorization into your system and they have no roles assigned. So they have no admin access. They cannot do anything inside your tenant because you've removed that access. And you can see here, confirmation, delegated admin roles have been removed from GoDaddy Inc. So GoDaddy cannot touch this tenant from this point going forward. That's very important to note. Now I want to show you this. This is back in the GoDaddy suite. This is logged in with my main GoDaddy account, and you can see there's our email system that we had previously. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to go in and manage this user now. I'm going to show you this because I'm going to go and delete account. And you can see, yes, delete the account, great, and just bulldoze in and just blow it away. Now, what it's saying is it's going to delete the mail, it's going to delete everything, everything's going away, might take a few minutes, whatever, that's all good, and I've got different accounts and my account is being deleted. Then I can remove the service from inside GoDaddy. I can now take off the renewal and basically get rid of it. As you can see, there we go. Now it says users are gone, and if I look at, the overview, set up accounts, I do have, you can see, different licenses available. Great. But what it means is that now if I go back into the 365 tenant, which I do here, if we just drag those away, drop those down here, and let's have a look at users, and unsurprisingly, there you go, refresh a few times, it says the account was deleted, but Bob's still here, Bob's licensed. GoDaddy cannot touch this tenant anymore. So by blowing it away inside GoDaddy and deleting it, has no effect on this tenant whatsoever. Like I keep saying, they have no admin access into your tenant anymore. So they can't do anything. So now I can go quite easily, go in, and you can see here, I can go into the account and I can remove that renewal as well and basically say, nah, GoDaddy, you're done in terms of that email management for me. So we'll drop that down here. So I wanted to show you that. So now they are released. We do have a tenant now that is defederated, and we've got new licenses in there from Microsoft. The admin roles have been removed. We've reset a password for Bob. So really all we're doing now is we're just going to wait for the authentication model to take effect for Bob so he can then log in. There's some extra work I want to do at the end, which is that DNS work with the SPF record. We've got to fix that and do the DKIM as well. I know I have that on a different video, the whole DKIM setup, but I thought it's relevant. Just we'll include it here. So you've got a full working set here. And we can then, I want to log in as Bob, and we're going to see what his new experience inside works. But what we'll also show is that he still has all his old email, and any content that he had is still there. So it's been a little while now. Let's see if the authentication is going to work. Let's go into here, go to Bob at Migration River. I will actually just refresh that screen just so we've got a nice fresh one there. There we go, and hit Bob. And yeah, there we go. Look at that. Asking for a password. Excellent. So let's put that in. There we go. Sign in. And that's certainly starting to work. So that's good. Let's change his password. Like so. Hit sign in. And it should let us in to his new experience with his new license. We'll say yes to that. And there we go. Now if we look at the apps that he's got available, he'll have the apps. Yep, welcome to apps, great. He's got all of this open up, which is from that business basic license that he has. So we can start looking at things like SharePoint and an Outlook. He'll also have OneDrive in there too. If we look at all apps, we should have OneDrive pop up, which we're going to look at shortly as well. Now, something you'll notice is on this as well, he still has an admin option, because remember that in the old tenant configuration, he was an admin user. That's how we reset that netorg password. So what we should be doing is going in, as you can see, we're now here as that admin account into the netorg organization. We want to be taking away those admin rights from Bob. We've got them obviously for myself here, but I want to be going into Bob, and I'm going to have a look at the roles that he has, and you can see he is a global admin. We want to be removing that for sure. We do not want him as a global admin, thank you. Save those changes, and that is done. What it'll mean is that in a few minutes time, if I refresh this, or maybe, yeah, let's have a look. Yeah, that admin will drop off. So you'll see that disappear very shortly. But essentially, if we go into Outlook for him, there is his email exactly as he left it. There you can see he's got a few more emails because we're saying about the different organization changes with his new license and what have you, but he is there. But what I also want to do now, if I actually just go in here and we just go to onedrive.com, it'll log in. You can say sign in there. That's a quick way, and we go in as, we can say Bob at migration.com. He should have a OneDrive all configured and done. There he is there with my files. Now this leads us into something I wanted to show you as well. Notice that this is persisting, this old netorg account, and that is going to be your base SharePoint site for anything for OneDrive and for SharePoint itself. Now if I go in back into the apps that he has, if I go into SharePoint, what you'll notice is, go to SharePoint, great, directed a few too many times, let's reload that. It's still obviously setting things up in the background. We're a little bit premature. So if you see things like this, and this is why I'm going to leave this in this video, is that sometimes things aren't quite ready in the back end yet. So you do need to just wait and just, like I say, go and have a cup of tea, go and chill, because it will come right on its own. Now, if I look at from an admin center here, what I'm looking for is SharePoint. That's not showing up yet. That's still being provisioned in the back end, so we can't do much with SharePoint. But what I will show you is that netorg, the onmicrosoft.com, as I say, is going to be your basis for OneDrive, SharePoint, and the like. Not always great to have. We want to be changing it, and I'm going to show you how to change it into Migration River, which is obviously our domain name. You can change it to whatever you like. As long as it's available, you can have it. But in this case, we want to be removing that, so we start losing dependency on this domain name here. So to do that, we go down to under settings, we have domains, and you'll see here's our netorg, and there's migrationriver.com. And notice how it says incomplete setup. We've still got some DNS work, which I know we're going to do at the end. We'll come back to that. But let's have a look at this one here, the default netorg. And you can see I can add an on Microsoft domain here. You can only add 5 in total. So I'll go alongside this netorg for your on Microsoft domain. And once you've got it in there, you can't change it. I say that quite funnily because if you spell that wrong, it's going to be carved in stone. So definitely get that right. So we're going to add that domain, migrationriver.onmicrosoft.com, and we will let that add in. There we go. So there is the, if I just go back to domains, we should see this one here. Now I'm going to make that as well. I'm going to set that as the default just for now. I want to take it away from this guy right here. Now that doesn't do anything in terms of changing from here. It just means that migrationriver.onmicrosoft.com is now available. Actually, you know what? We should be making this one the default. What am I thinking? There's our default option there. When we add a new account, that's the default it's going to get. But what we want to do is we want to be moving things now across from net.org into this guy here, the migrationriver.onmicrosoft.com, and we'll start using that for like admin processes and the like. So what I will do, I'll just go to my active users here, and you can see there's our account. Bam, and we will go and manage the username, and we just change it to migrationriver.onmicrosoft.com. And there we go, username updated, and guess what? Signs us out. That was a big surprise, wasn't it? So let's go and remove these, sign out, and now we can go back and sign in. Let's go into, just go into portal.office.com. Go in, obviously that one's not going to work, so it's going to have to be admin@migrationriver.onmicrosoft.com. There we go. Normal password. And sign in. There we go. And that's obviously taken us back to exactly where we were. But we're now logged in, as you can see, with the Migration River on Microsoft.com account. And you see that's now transferred over here too, which is obviously a good thing. So now we can go ahead and make that change in the SharePoint backend to make it so it is Migration River rather than the net.org. Now, while that's all been happening in the background, you can see, look what's popped up down here. We've got SharePoint Teams and other things. This is starting to, like I said, the Microsoft licensing is now taking effect on the tenant, and it's starting to open up things for you. Now, if I go to SharePoint, this is where you'll notice what I'm talking about. You can see it's giving us the net.org as the base level for our SharePoint site. So if we go into any site, and if we create a brand new site, it's going to, and I'll just do one just to show you what the effect is here. Let's say we get a new team site. Standard team, nothing special, and we're going to give it a test site for migration demo like that. And group owner, we'll just put Bob in as the owner and hit next there, and we'll be good with our time zone. That's where we are. Private, all good. Create site and add some members. I'm going to add Bob as a member as well. I mean, look, we've got other users here. This is just a demo, but you can see really the effect of what I'm doing here. If I finish that up, you can see there's our site. But if I go into the site, which probably won't let me in because I'm the admin. Oh no, it did add me as admin there. But you can see test site for migration. There's our SharePoint site with documents. But the ugly part is it's got this, and we really, really don't like that. We don't want that there. So what we need to do to change it, it's a simple one PowerShell command, which once we connect into the back end for SharePoint, but it does take 24 hours to run. You actually schedule the change and it runs 24 hours later. So what you see in this video is obviously not, I'm going to be doing it tomorrow, and I'll finish that video off tomorrow and add in so we can see it becomes migrationriver.sharepoint.com. Now the good news is all your OneDrives, which may be having that old name on them, do redirect. So if they go and replace it with Migration River, it will start pointing at the same place. You don't have to do anything for that redirection. It does work. I assure you of that. So let's do that now. Let's get that get this name change done and show you how to connect. Now we do it with PowerShell 5 rather than PowerShell 7 because we're using the PowerShell SharePoint modules, which ironically don't work in PowerShell 7. They're yet to be upgraded, and the graph access there. We actually do it with a standard Connect SBO service into PowerShell 5. So let me show you that. So I've started a normal Windows PowerShell ISE as administrator, which is there. And the first thing we're going to do is, I'm just going to put it up in here so you can see, and we can keep them on screen here, but it's going to be the install module, and it's Microsoft Online SharePoint.PowerShell. That's our first one. And then obviously want to do the same one with an import. So we'll just get there, import there. I'm just going to firstly just run this one first. Bam. And that will let us install that. Yes, please. And there we go. Now, as you can see on this, I've already installed it. I'm already using it on the system. I want to put this in so you can see what's going on, and that's what you would need to do. If you've already got it, it's no problem. What you can do, like I did on the graph one, if we do force there and just run that command, that will then tell it to go over the top. And you can see it's installing that brand new version over the top. Always a good option if you do get that little error saying it's slightly out of date. then you can do that. And then we can do the import module there. Just run that command. And don't worry about this. Some of them, it says it doesn't bring the full set in. That's perfectly okay. That's good for what we want to be doing. So we have this PowerShell module. And if you want to test it, if you just do a get SPO site, doesn't work. Look at that. I do put in, I've forgotten to connect to it. What a clown. Okay, so here's the thing. We've connected, sorry, we've imported the module. I love these videos when I just keep them rolling, but you can see what's happening here. Okay, I forgot to do this command, which is connect SPO service and with a URL. And I'm going to be connecting into, get this, the netorg equivalent of this site. Now, we grab it from here, but it's not quite this one, because the site we want to actually connect to is the admin version. So I'll put the quote on the end, come back here, and it's got to be -admin. So whatever your site is with the netorg, you want to connect it in like so. What it will do is it will then ask you to log in and, oh, excuse me, let me just run just that command. And it'll ask you to sign in, and we'll use another account. There we go. And we're going to be logging in as admin at migrationriver.onmicrosoft.com, which is obviously our admin account we're using. Like so, sign that in, and that will then connect. And guess what? Now we can run get SPO site, and we should get a response, and there you go. So now you can see it is connected because it's bringing back this information, and including even that little dummy site that we just made as well. So now we know we've got a good connection into the back end for SharePoint. Now, to do our tenant rename, single command, which we schedule obviously ahead for 24 hours. But that command, let me just paste it in here for you. So paste that in, and I put the domain name. Now this is going to be migrationriver.onmicrosoft.com. You don't specify the tail end of it. You just put in obviously Migration River, and we've got to give it a time, which is going to be 24 hours at least past that. So what have we got today? And leave the T in there, and we'll do that at, let's say, what am I doing? 11:00:00. Kept that, so it's going to be 11 a.m. tomorrow. Actually, what are we now? The 15th? No, we need to do the 16th because we're actually the 15th today. There we go. I'm all fingers and thumbs right now, aren't I? Okay, so do that, and we run that command, and it doesn't. Oh, what a fucking idiot. So that's from the Microsoft article. So we've got a few things to change here. So firstly, our domain name is going to be Migration River. It is the onmicrosoft.com domain that we set up just previously without the suffix. That's important. Just put Migration River there, and we're going to put the date and time. So that will be 2025-07, and it'll be tomorrow, and the time will be 11:00, and we get rid of the rest of it. There we go. So when we run that command, hopefully it should schedule that for us. Let me say run selection. There we go. Yes, please. And that says success. Now that doesn't mean it's done it. It means it's scheduled that for tomorrow at 11. So that will then take effect. It happens pretty quickly. We don't have much data in there, and there's certainly not many sites, so it should happen pretty quickly, and it will rename the root sites of all of these into Migration River. Obviously the effect that we want. So I'll come back right at the end of the video, and which will be tomorrow, and show you that rename has taken place, and obviously the effect it has on those particular site names. So let's come back and get our DNS right. We did talk about DNS previously, and the tenants had a little bit of time to settle now. So let's go and have a look at the DNS side. If we go back to our scanner tool that we were looking at earlier and hit scan again, and we'll see nothing's really changed. No DMARC. It says, sorry, DKIM. DMARC is there. SPF is there, but not really configured very well. So we do need to do a little bit of work on these items. So let's have a look at the SPF first. And how we can do this is we go into the admin center here and we look at domains. And we come back. Remember, it said incomplete setup. There we go. Now, that means that it needs some work done to get everything right. So if we go into the domain, you can then say continue setup. and that will go and say, how do we want to connect it? It knows that it's linked up to GoDaddy. Now, it will then link to GoDaddy, make all the changes it needs to, and then come back. Now, that is perfectly fine to do. That's nothing to do with your email subscription or any other thing that you had. This is totally good to do. In fact, if you had a normal domain in GoDaddy that was never part of a GoDaddy tenant, and you were doing this, this would be the approach you'd take. So if I hit continue here, it should try and log me into GoDaddy. So you can see this is what it wants to do. It wants to add these records in. Perfect. We'll say good, go and add the DNS records. And yes, you can see it's given me my login, as you can see here, into my master GoDaddy account. So I'm going to take that off the recording here and just put that in. Let's get that like so. There we go. And sign in. And that's now asking. Let me just bring that across so you can see it's asking if we want to do the connection, which we will do here. Now, sometimes it does fail like that. That's not a problem. It happens occasionally when it's linking through. So all you do there is just close it and just do it again. And you'll find that it actually doesn't ask you to log in again. It just says connect, and it will work a second time. There you see it's done it. That is quite normal. I have that all the time. It just needs a second connection. But you can see there, domain setup is complete according to that. And we say done. And now it should come back, and if we do a refresh here, it should ordinarily come back and say everything is good. Let me just, I wonder why that is not carrying on. Let's say continue setup again. It's a bit strange. I'm going to leave this video running so you can see, yes, that is what is happening here. I'm just connect through and say, why is it not allowing that to be done? Yeah, there we go. Domain setup's complete. It thinks it is. So that is... They'll say, oh, looks like it's done it in the background. Okay, well, yeah, it looks manually managed, looks healthy. Okay, all right, we'll just leave that going. I'll leave it all together so you can see these things do happen. We just give it another try and see how it goes. Look at DNS records. It should come back with some ticks, I would hope, once it does a check on them and confirms they are correct. Yeah, we've got everything okay there. So really, our work inside GoDaddy, if we go and have a look at the GoDaddy, and I will go in there soon because there are some extra DNS things we need to do for the DKIM and checking out the DMARC, but you can see it thinks it's done them now, which is obviously good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just do that scanner again, and I might be a little bit premature for DNS to take effect, but let's have a look at the SPF record. Let's see if it has come through. And no, not yet. You can see it's still got the secureserver.net. So if you want to do a check and see how the DNS is actually working globally, there's a little site which I find quite useful. We'll just add another one here, which you can see is dnschecker.org. Now this you can put in, and I'll put in, let's put in migrationriver.com. Let's, no, we don't need that. And we look for text records. And let's do a search. And looking at that, you can see there's our text record for this is actually taking effect around the world now. Happens pretty quickly. You can see, as I say, really, really cool site just to check out where your DNS has been propagated and what it is. It just means that scanner is probably picking up a slightly older version, but this is good to see these items in here. In fact, if we do another quick scan now, SPF. Again, we might have to wait for a bit, but yeah, look, it's still this particular site is probably cached that entry, which is why we can come back and look at that later on. But essentially, what I'm looking at here on the DNS checker, it shows that it is propagated out. We do have an SPF record there, so we can check that out as well. Have a look at dnslookup.io. That's always a good one to look at there. If we say find DNS records, obviously, normally with cloud stuff, we're going to be waiting. Just wait a little bit. Just let it do its thing. And if we do refresh that, look at that there. See, now it's taking effect. It's got the SPF for the protection.outlook.com. So therefore, you can see that things are starting to work and flow through, which is definitely good to see based on this. So DKIM, that's one of our main things we need to check. It's not in place here. So how do we get that set up? That is a very important one to do. So how we do that is we go back to the admin console here, and we actually can go through all the security and everything. I'm going to give you the link just so you can type it in real quick. And it is just security.microsoft. Learn to spell, Mark. Yep, DKIMV2. Oh my gosh, I have really made a mess of that. Oh dear. Okay, there we go. It's a long day already. Okay, DKIMV2. And we should see that we have email authentication settings come up. Here we go. And we've got migrationriver.com. We've got these other two as well. We don't need those, but we're really going to be looking at this guy. Now, if I try and do the enabling, it's going to come back and complain and say you don't have DNS records. But luckily, it's going to tell us what they are. So then we can put them into GoDaddy. If I go into here, you can see these are the items that it needs. Yep, there we go. It's saying can't do it because of these items here. Now, remembering that as this was our original domain, it's still there. It is the default signing domain. That's perfectly okay to have, and it will still work. But you can see these are the entries we need to put into the DNS. So let's go into GoDaddy and let's stick those in. So DNS management inside GoDaddy, migrationriver.com, excellent DNS records. You can see all our entries in here. These are the ones that it added for us, which is great. So we're going to add in 2 CNAMEs. So how we do that, we say add new record, and it's going to be a CNAME. So we have the name and the value. Now if we just drag this slightly over, I can't quite see it, but we'll go in here. So the host name, you can see here, selector1 domain key. We just copy that into here, and we take this portion here and we copy that into the value, and we'll just put an hour, save that one, and then we add a secondary item for a CNAME, which is basically the same thing. It's just the second selector that it chooses. There we go. There, and this guy here, pop that in, 1 hour, save that. So that is done, taken care of. That is the DKIM record done. So we can minimize that, and we just hit close. Now, what we need to do is, you can see it says CNAME missing. That's the what it's looking for in the DNS. Now, although the DNS is going to take effect pretty quickly on that, we saw it pushed out quite effectively with the DNS checker. The Microsoft backend for this does take a little bit to go through. So you're going to wait probably 15 to 30 minutes before we enable it. If I try and enable it now, it's probably just going to fail as well on that one. So I'll come back to that one in a short while and show that DKIM working. And what we'll also show then is the DNS changes have taken effect on the SPF and DKIM scanner tool. So I want to get those little green ticks, because it's always good to show your client that you've got green ticks on that. What I will do is I'm going to then send an email from Bob and have a look at the email headers and show that everything is actually working from that deliverability stance as well. I'm going to show you a little trick to grab those headers out and put them into a checker tool to make sure that all of these items, SPF, DKIM, DMARC, all of that is in fact taking effect on your tenant. That is a very important thing you need to do for your client. Get that all correct. Then they won't have all their mails going into people's junk and spam. That is really the effect we're taking. Now, I do have a different video that talks about exactly what SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, how they work, why they work like they do. So go and look for that. Just go and search on my channel for SPF. You'll find it. But for now, we'll just do that check on those headers and see what it looks like. So I've given that a bit of a time to bake in. So let's just go and enable that now and see if it does it. It should hopefully just flick over and say enabled. And there we go. Valid records. Lovely. Okay. So we can now do a recheck on the scanner tool and just see what that looks like as well. So put in our migrationriver.com, hit scan, and look at that. We've got green for everything, which is good. So we're going to send an email now as Bob. I'm going to send it to myself, and then we'll go and look at those headers inside Outlook, show you how that works. So let's go to Bob and we'll start a new mail. So that'll look like that, and just hit send. And once it comes in, we'll go and view what these headers look like. So we just jump into Outlook. So that's the mail come through to me, and it went straight into my inbox. It didn't hit junk, which is perfect. So that's obviously a very good sign. But what you do is you bring up the email like this. I'm going to show you my inbox, obviously. But this is just the mail itself. What you do here is you go into File and have a look at Properties, and you're going to get this Internet Headers block here. So you go in here, Control A, Control C, just to get that out. And the site we're looking for, if you go to a web page here, if you type it mha.azurewebsites.net. Now, that is Microsoft's message header analyzer, and we drop that in, analyze headers, and it will tell us everything about the transmit for that mail. Now, what we're looking for here, we're looking for the spam confidence level, the not spam, that's all, everything seems to be good here. But when we go down here into this point, I'm looking for these authentication results. I'm looking for fails if they come up. We can look at passes, but also look at fails. So you can see here, we've got an SPF pass, which is great. We have a DKIM pass, perfect there. And we should have the DMARC pass. If we can find that, there we are. There's a DMARC pass as well. So really, from what we're seeing here, the email deliverability for Migration River on our new tenant is actually working rather well. And you can see there's our whole section there. Pass, pass, pass. Everything looks good. So therefore, these mails that they're sending out through Migration River for anybody will not go automatically into people's spam or junk mail, or even get quarantined. They'll just go straight through, as long as they're obviously legitimate emails. So that is a good way to check your deliverability of your mails and make sure that everything is configured for that outbound purpose correctly. Now, as a last item on this video, I want to show you that we've completed that SharePoint rename. It's a couple of days since we actually did that. I've just come back to it and had a look. It does actually go on that timing that we did. So we had that 24-hour timing. But after that, it's all settled in nicely. If we look at the SharePoint Admin Center now, we should see there we go. Look, Migration River-admin has replaced our main name on the SharePoint.com, which is good. And look at the active sites. We'll see, yes, we've got Migration River there. And that was the demo site we set up earlier. So if I go into that one, again, you can see, okay, so the admin user doesn't have access. That's fair enough. But the important thing here is that we have migrationriver.sharepoint.com as the key one. So let me go across to the users now, because I want to have a look at the details for this guy, Bob. Let's go in here and we have a look at the OneDrive. And if we do the create link, that'll just show us what the URL actually is for Bob's OneDrive. And you can see there we have Migration River. Excellent. And if we go up into his account, so you can see there we are, Migration River-my. That's the SharePoint address for the personal OneDrive for Bob. So really it means our site rename has been good. Everything is done there, and we can carry on with our users there. What is important is that if anybody goes to the old setting, the old netorg ft setting for SharePoint, it will redirect into the Migration River. So all the old links and all the old references and everything does still work. They don't have to do anything. So the site rename is actually really quite effective in how it does everything. Very, very good to do if you've got the netorg sitting in the background. Change it across to a more friendly name for your business, which is good. And obviously the users will be happy because they can see just Migration River or whatever company name they have, rather than that horrible netorg setting which we would have previously. So thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate it. I always love it when you subscribe to the channel as well. That's always a good thing for me to see when I see all the subscribers go up. I enjoy that for sure. So thank you for that. Please, if you've got any questions or comments, just put them in the comment section for the video. Obviously my email address is in there too in the description, so feel free to drop me a note if you have any specific questions you want to ask me personally. Please reach out and do that. Always happy to respond to those. And you have an awesome day, week, weekend, wherever you're at. So thank you again. We'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.